Have you ever faced change in your life? I know I have, and you probably have as well. Well, today I want to kind of talk about this, and the catalyst behind this is a conversation I actually had recently with somebody I was networking with who also does leadership development. And when her and I were talking, we both have worked for large corporations, and the one thing that we had in common was seeing the trainings that were given, that were facilitated at these large corporations, and how, while they were great and the person that facilitated the trainings, nothing against them, but the company didn't change. There was no change that happened because of that training. And it really got me to thinking, why is that? Why in the world would companies spend all of this money on training, and why would people go to training and then make no change? And I feel like the bigger the corporation, the worse this happens and the more often that this happens. And a couple of things that I can think about here is, one, if you're not in a management position, if you're just an employee and you were sent to training, usually, and what I've heard from managers before, and I call them managers and not leaders because they're just managing people, they're not actually trying to lead people and make them better and help them grow for themselves, but also within the company to help the company continue to grow, is that, okay, we've identified this thing, just go to training. Okay, you need that? Yeah, just go to training. So you can check that box. That's all that is. And so that's one of the reasons why training doesn't work. And so that's the employee level, but even for the leadership level, either the manager, his manager, or her manager said, hey, you need to go to this training, or HR is just saying, hey, we're going to do leadership training, which happens a lot of times. And therefore, these leaders, these managers, they go through this training, they hear some good stuff, maybe they like one or two things and they decide to try and do it, but then that's it. So how do we go about fixing this? And this is the question that this person and I, as we were discussing, Tracy and I, as we were discussing, that was the thing that we were trying to figure out. And I don't have the best answer here, but I have some ideas, and I just want to share these with you. I want this episode, this video, this podcast, however you're listening to this, I want you to think about this and really expand your mind and open your mind to a new way of thinking. This is not going to be 100%, this is the way you should do it. This is my ideas, but I think it'll be helpful for you to start within your company if you're having the same struggle of, we need to change, but we just don't know how to change or what to do. We've been to the trainings before, we've done the things, and yet nothing's transpired. And so how do we do that? Well, let's think about our lives. So I want to give you an example first, and then we'll kind of dissect into how you can actually implement this within your company, some ideas for you to take away. If in your life you decide you want to get in shape, and that's all you do, you make a decision, maybe you looked up some YouTube videos, or you went and got something popular like Weight Watchers, where, hey, I'm going to start doing this diet. And you did all this research, and maybe even bought some courses and bought the programs, but you didn't actually take action, or maybe you took action here or there. Do you expect to get the results? No. And that's the problem with leadership development or any kind of development training program, is that we go, we do it, and we feel like we've done something. We feel like, well, I paid for it. Well, I thought about doing it. So therefore, I've kind of halfway accomplished it. I'm on my way. And that's just a sliver of it. The thing is, you have to actually take action and continue to take action on that in order to make that work out. And so as you're trying to lose that weight, it's about continuing to take action time and time again on the things that you've learned about. Now let's transition this into the corporate side of things. So you've taken this training. Great. It's just like thinking about it. You've decided to take some action. You bought a course. Maybe you went through the course. Maybe you went through this training. But what are you doing on the other side of that? It's about actually implementing that training. So you have to implement the things that you're doing. But it doesn't just stop there. Yes, it starts with you. You have to start first. But after that, it becomes about your team. So you have to start within your department. Well, first of all, you start with you. Yeah, I have to start with me and make myself better, make myself into the thing that I want to be, or implement the thing that I just learned. And then I start working on my team from there. And then after that, if your team becomes so cohesive, you work on the team that you work with the most. And then just keep letting that expand out. Start to share this idea with other leaders. Get them bought in. And especially as the company's larger, you can definitely see why this is so much harder in a large company. But you have to implement the things that you're doing. So maybe you're listening to this. You're a leader. You're a trainer. You're somebody that gets people to take action on things. You are educating. You have to give them things to implement. I was working with some leaders here recently as we were going through and talking from a workshop. We had a workshop, or they had a workshop. And after the workshop, I was like, okay, what are you going to do? And they're like, oh, we're going to post about it and get some people to take some action on it. Okay, well, how are you going to get them to take action on it? They were relying on basically, we're going to give you all the stuff we talked about, and then we just expect you to do it. And the thing is, one, there's two sides to this. One, the employee feels like, well, it doesn't matter if I do more than my job, especially as the company gets bigger and bigger and bigger. If I do more than what's really expected of my job, it's still going to look at like, ah, yeah, you did your job. We appreciate it. Maybe a little pat on the back, and that's it. And not everything is about money, but money is a great indicator that you are doing things that are appreciated. And so you're going to have the employee sitting here saying, I'm not doing that because you aren't going to recognize me for that, for doing the extra, for taking on that task without you telling me. So then you have the leader that has to then at least assign that task. So that's what I talked with these managers about. I said, okay, you've done this workshop. You got some buy-in, some complaints, if you will, and not necessarily solutions yet to things that are going on with poor communication in your team. So what are you going to do about it? And they started kind of talking through this, that, and the other. We don't have time for this. I get it. You're a manager. But I finally suggested to them, you need to collect a team. Collect a team, a partial team of your whole team. Because this was actually it's one whole department, but there's 3 sections within the department. So kind of 3 managers within this. And so I suggested to them that they have a representative from each of the departments that comes together with them. They do a kickoff. And then from there, those 3 representatives, as needed, go back to their teams. But what they're going to do is what we call a hot seat. So I'm Department A, and Department B and C tell me what's wrong with me, what they need from me, how I can support them better, this, that, and the other. And I take that all in. I answer what I can in the moment, but I'm writing down everything so I can go back and make sure I address that. And then we do the same thing with Department B or Section B and Section C, and so on and so forth. And the things that I can't personally answer or the representative can't answer for that section of the department then goes back to their whole section and says, hey, look, Department or Section B and C, they need these things from us. How are we going to be able to supply that to them? And so that's the game plan that I gave them. It wasn't just about having this workshop in this case. It wasn't a training, but a workshop to kind of discuss these things, draw them out, and hopefully build some bonding with the team. But it was, okay, now let's actually implement what we talked about. Let's actually take some action on those things. Because within the workshop, and this happens for a lot of leaders, they think they do a workshop, it's going to be good enough. They do a training, they send you a training, and it's good enough. No, there has to be implementation. So if you're doing a workshop to bring a team together to help make change, to build up that culture, you then have to have an action plan afterwards. Because your team, those employees, are sitting there waiting for you to tell them to do something. They don't mind doing the work, but because of past experiences, they know that if they just step up and try and do it, they're just going to have more work to do. There's not going to be recognition. So you, one, need to recognize people more often, and two, you need to assign those tasks and give a way forward and talk about what those next steps are, because you are the leader. You're the one leading that team. But to tie all of this together, I wanted to really give you some good examples of how you need to go about trainings and workshops. And it's about implementation. It's not just about sending an employee to a workshop. It's not just about you going to a workshop or a training and learning the skill. That is 1% of it. It's about implementation. You can read 1,000 books and have so much knowledge. You can have an IQ of 500. I know it doesn't go that high, but you can have an IQ off the charts because you're so smart. But if you don't know how to implement the things that you know, it doesn't matter. So you need to start implementing the trainings and workshops as you're getting educated. Don't simply just go to a workshop. Don't simply send somebody on your team to a workshop. Actually implement the changes. And so if you sent a team member to a workshop, ask them about it. Ask what things they're going to do to implement what they learned at that workshop. Otherwise, you have wasted a couple of grand, 10 grand, depending on where they went and how long they were gone for. You could spend some serious money on a workshop or training. All for it to, yeah, it was good. And that's it. And I've seen this too many times, and Tracy, who I was speaking with, she's seen this too many times too within these large corporations that do this. So whether you're a large corporation or a small business, it doesn't matter. The thing that you need to do after a training or a workshop is go back and actually take action. Implement what it is that you're trying to work on. And when you do that, you then will start to see change and results within your company.